Hello, hello, and welcome to the program. So glad you're here. My name is Gavin. This is my channel. We like to get into documents. We like to get into the deep, dark underbelly of the true crime world. We like to cut past the sensationalism. So if that's what you like, you found the right place, and I'm glad you did. I'm trying to open up the right document. I just realized that I hadn't opened the document that I want to share with you guys tonight. So I've done that now. There we go. Oh, of course, like Adobe wants to update everything, but okay, we are good. You're like, Gavin, why are you doing it this way? Why you got to be this way? It's just been a day. My day's no busier than anybody else's. There's no excuse. Let's dive in. Okay. We are talking about the murder of Judge Kevin Mullins, 54-year-old district court judge in Letcher County, Kentucky, who on September 19th of last year was gunned down by his friend. I feel like, there we go. He was gunned down by his friend and the sheriff of Letcher County, a guy named Mickey Stines. Okay. Now, Mickey Stines is on trial. Well, I mean, the trial hasn't started, but he's facing charges of murder. This is not a whodunit kind of a case, right? He is on security camera actually shooting to death a sitting district judge. The question has always been why he done it. Why you done it, Mickey? And it's starting to become a little more clear now as to why he did it. Now, what's been happening is that Mickey Stines' lawyer, a guy named Jeremy Bartley, here he is with his law partner and wife, Carrie Bartley. They are representing Mickey Stines, and he has been all over the place talking about the case. I don't know what it is about Kentucky, but he apparently is perfectly fine going around talking about the case. And there are a couple of interviews that he did that I would like to share with you today. I'm going to get my headphones on. We're going to go over a couple of interviews, and then we are going to go over a notice that Mr. Bartley filed with the, I just feel like there we go. That Mr. Bartley filed with the Commonwealth of Kentucky in the Letcher County Circuit Court. Okay. So I think where we're going to start is right over here. Let's bring it up. This is an interview. It's, about 5 minutes long that Mr. Bartley did with Brian Enton on News Nation. He did this I think it was on March 5th, so it's been about a week out there, but it gives us a little bit of a clue as to why his client, Mickey Stines, the sheriff of Letcher County, unholstered his weapon and lobbied 8 rounds into the body of Judge Kevin Mullins. Now, this is going to be a discussion tonight like it is on most nights. So if you would please put GF in your comment, that will help me to see it over here on my side. And I appreciate you guys are checking in. So here we go. Let's go over to here and we'll listen to what Mr. Bartley has to say. Here we go.
Outrageous crimes involving these high-level officials in this town. How does that connect back to...
I already have to stop. What do we get into that thing? Like 8 seconds. I already have to stop because I didn't prepare you guys enough. If you're not familiar with this case, what happened is there was a deputy of Mr. Stines, a man named Ben Fields, Deputy Ben Fields. And Mr. Fields was convicted of SAing some of the women that were in the Letcher County jail. He was the guy that did the ankle monitoring for the county. In fact, this is his Megan's Law, the most recent Megan's Law picture that I can find anyway. And after his conviction, two women, Sabrina Adkins and the late Jennifer Hill, filed a suit with their attorney, Mr. Ned Pillersdorf. And it's a federal civil rights lawsuit. We've gone over it quite a bit here on the channel, basically alleging that Mickey Stines, part of it anyway, that Mickey Stines either knew or should have known what Mr. Fields was up to when he was essaying these women, okay? One of the women, Sabrina Atkins, said in a proffer that was recorded by the Kentucky Attorney General's office's investigators that she saw video evidence of basically sexual intercourse inside the same judge's chambers that we see on this video of Mickey Stines shooting and killing Judge Mullins. She claims that the person who was having sexual intercourse on that video was indeed Judge Mullins. So there's a lot going on in Letcher County. There's like this huge, like I don't even know what you would call it. Like this, there are rumors of very powerful people in the county, all of the men that I know about, abusing their authority in this kind of weird sex ring. Mickey Stines was deposed on a Monday in that federal lawsuit, and he shot and killed Judge Mullins on a Thursday. Okay, that's where we are. All right, let's continue now that we're eight. You know what I should do? I need to make it so that I can see this better here. Give me just a second. On my side, I'm having issues. So I'm going to pull that up. There we go. Okay. So I am going to just pull that back 8 seconds, and here we go.
On all these outrageous crimes involving these high-level officials in this town, how does that connect back to the sheriff shooting the judge?
Well, I think the important key to remember is that earlier in this week, there was a deposition. My client was to give a deposition in the civil case. Leading up to that deposition, there's multiple witnesses, family, members of the community, folks that he worked with that saw my client in the struggle, the stress, the strain, the sleepless nights he had. He felt very much threatened about what he might say.
Now, before we finish what Mr. Bartley is going to say here, remember that we've had Ned Pillersdorf here on the channel, and he told us on this channel, he also told us when I was on a panel with him over on Surviving the Survivor, that Mr. Stines was not behaving the way a normal officer of the law typically does. He was very out of sorts. He was noticeably different than he had behaved in the past. And Mr. Pillersdorf knew Mr. Stines because he had done all sorts of legal stuff in Letcher County as a defense lawyer. Okay, so here we go.
Would he say too much that would put his family in danger? You heard Sabrina Atkins in that interview just before you switched to speak with me. She talked about the dangerous men there. So this deposition takes place on Monday. And as the week goes on, Mickey continued to be in fear that he had said something, or that further discovery in that civil case would something he would say would ruffle the feathers of some dangerous men. And ultimately, he was in fear for the safety of his wife and his daughter. And I think what you see there is the result of that.
Okay, so what Mr. Bartley is saying is Mr. Stines going into this deposition, knowing that he was under oath, that he was going to have to tell the truth and answer questions honestly and completely when he was asked them. If anything slipped out in that deposition, that powerful men in Letcher County, or let's just say in the area, knew that he knew if he let any of that out, he was concerned about the safety of his wife and daughter. That is the claim that they are making. That's the claim that they will probably make in court. So the motive, well, we'll talk about the motive in just a minute. Let's keep going with Mr. Bartley and Brian Enton.
Yeah, and just so people understand, there was this civil lawsuit ongoing. Again, I talked about the corruption and the deputies accused of having sex with inmates and all sorts of shady stuff. So there's the civil suit that's ongoing. There had already been a criminal investigation and arrests, and the sheriff was being called in for a deposition, and you're saying that he was concerned about it. Did he have information about other high-level people, perhaps even the judge, that were involved in all of this? Is that why he was so concerned?
I love Brian Enton's questioning. He does a very good job. He asks all the right questions. That's a great question.
Well, I think the bigger concern was from other people as to what he might say, and I think certainly there was information that Mickey had that he knew that other people didn't want to be made public, and if in fact they felt that some of the stuff that he said during the deposition, hurt them or exposed them for what they were doing, then there certainly was a threat that Mickey perceived, one that was both perceived and real, and he was afraid for the safety of his wife and daughter.
You know what just occurred to me here, guys, is that, I mean, you've heard me say a million times that the vast majority of cases never make it to trial. This is one where I feel like it's going to make it to trial. And I think the reason it's going to make it to trial is I think Mr. Stines is going to want that information to get out there for his defense. Those kinds of things that he knows about dangerous people in and around Letcher County, powerful, dangerous men, probably all. I think that at this point, I think he would want it out there. And so I think this probably will make it to a trial. And the motions and the suppression motions and things like that are going to be crazy. This is going to last a good long time.
Were they trying to pin any of these sex crimes on him? Does that play into it?
Well, I think the bigger concern that we're talking about here, I've not seen any evidence that my client was implicated in any of the corrupt sex practices that they had. I've not seen anything to that degree, but
that's an interesting way to answer it, right? I haven't seen any evidence that would implicate my client in and then speaks as a fact, the corrupt sex acts that were going on. He is saying it as a fact, and I find that very interesting.
The fear was that Mickey is under oath. What will they ask him? What will he say in response? Will he talk about? You're talking about a district judge's chambers where there's a live security feed as a result of what was going on back there. That's unheard of, and it just speaks to the level of things that were happening behind the scenes that these folks would very well could cause physical harm to keep secret. And
that's a very good point, right? And maybe it gets lost on us a little bit. It certainly gets lost on me. I don't want to speak for you, but how many judges' chambers in the United States have a security camera in them? I'm not talking like in the antechamber where the assistant is and the conference room is, but like the judge's office. How many have security cameras in there? And I would guess, well, if you believe Mr. Bartley, it's unheard of. It doesn't happen, right? So my guess is this doesn't exist throughout the rest of the nation. And it's because of what was happening in there. And it was proven that at least Ben Fields was doing stuff in there. There have been allegations that there have been others.
And Mickey was placed in this situation, and simultaneously, because of the stress, because of other factors that I don't want to get into tonight, But his mental health had taken a toll as well, and so what you see is a result of both extreme pressure that was placed upon him, the fear of what other people might do around him, and the impact of mental health as well.
Did he know something about the judge being involved in all of this? And this
Enton knows that he's not going to answer that question, but he still has to ask it. That's a responsible question to
whole
ask.
sex scandal? I mean, is that why he did this? I mean, because like you said, he knew he was on camera. I mean, he was right in the chambers. Is there something he knew about this judge?
I think that certain people within that community were.
Did you see that smile? Did you see that smile? Hold on. Let's go back just a little bit to the question. Watch Mr. Bartley's face.
He knew about this judge?
I think that certain people within that community
were
concerned that he would say things that will be harmful to the people surrounding the judge and the folks in the courthouse at large. And what you see is the result of a man who believed that his wife and daughter had been or would be kidnapped or killed and hurt. And, at that point, he had not been able to get in contact with them. And he was scared for their safety. And, and that's why we said from the beginning, this is classic EED at worst, and at best, we think it's a criminal responsibility, insanity defense that's there.
Yeah, I wonder if the strategy of Mr. and Mrs. Bartley being out in the media so much maybe has to do with keeping their clients safe, trying to get it out into the community that there are dangerous men in the community, and thereby keeping their clients safe, like trying to just get it out. Like, there's something going on in my personal life where I am a side character in a bit of a drama that's happening in a congregation that we used to go to back in California. And I might be the only one who is just like, no, put everything out there that you have on me. Just dump it. I don't even care. Right. Because if it's out there, whatever you think you have. And if you guys want to know about this, I'll tell you the story sometime. It's hilarious. But by it being out there, it makes it so nobody can hurt me. That there's no threat, right? So anyway, that's what I'm wondering if they are trying to keep their clients safe that way. Because remember, he is in a neighboring county's jail, and right now I'm blanking on it. Is it like Love County or something like that? I can't remember, but he's in a county jail nearby. I'm sure that they are concerned for his safety. Let's take a look. We're going to bring up our victim here, and let's take a look at your comments. Let me just go through, see what you guys are saying here. Haunted housewife, I think I should say haunted housewife, said, OMG, I made my first live. Just found you a few days ago, and I've been binge watching your Maddie Soda videos. Well, thank you very much. I am honored to be your new favorite. Let me see if there's anything else here. Susan Lewis says, Gavin, if someone tried to sell this as a script, it would be rejected as unrealistic. It feels that way, doesn't it? Like, this is the strangest case. Just a sheriff murders. Well, I can't use the word murder because he hasn't been convicted of murder, but he definitely committed homicide. He killed another human being, and he did it on surveillance. So a county sheriff, kills a sitting judge over what appears to be him being concerned about the well-being of his family because he knows information about some crazy sex weirdness going on in the county jail. I think you're right. It's just nuts. It's just absolutely nuts. Tara says, Gavin, one of the insanity elements is not appreciating the difference between right and wrong. Yeah. And I think what they're going to say is that in that moment, Well, actually, he's going to expand on this. We're going to watch another video with Anjanette Levy here in just a bit, and he expands on this quite a bit. But the idea is that he he was sleep deprived. He was worried about his wife and daughter. He just was not himself, and yeah, and he just did it. Janet says, Gavin, I really wonder if one or more of those good old boys really did threaten him, his wife, and daughter. Well, according to what Mr. Bartley just said, now again, like it's not proof, right? But he's saying that there was a perceived threat and a real threat. So, yeah, pretty crazy. Rapunzel says, I'm the best of the best. Well, thank you very much. Jess says it was more of a smirk. Yes, it was. It was more of a smirk. Mooney says, Gavin, but is there any evidence that the judge was doing that other than the statement from one of the plaintiffs? If there is, I have not seen it. I've not seen the evidence. Yeah. I wonder if they will let that out in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Lori Dean, Gavin, if there were videos from the judge's chambers, is it possible that some of them were used as blackmail or extortion? Well, yeah, I think if we're talking about videos of behavior that was happening in the judge's chambers, not videos from the surveillance camera that was put in there because of what was going on, right? Yeah, I think it's possible. Sure. Cassie, have there been accusations against Sheriff Stines? Accusations as in he was part of this sex ring? The accusation that was made by Miss Sabrina Adkins and Ms. Jennifer Hill is that he either knew about it or he should have known about it. And those are the only accusations so far. No evidence. Autumn says, I get an off feeling from this attorney. I don't know. I feel like he's a pretty darn good defense attorney. I know that, or I understand that he's, if I bring them back up, this is their law office, Jeremy and Carrie Bartley. I understand that most of their practice is family law and personal injury law. That doesn't automatically mean that they're not well versed or couldn't be successful in some other part of the law, criminal law, especially when it comes to homicide. So I don't know if there's anything off with them. They just seem like polished attorneys to me, but that's just me. I am, it's definitely possible that I am wrong. Meredith asked Gavin, what happened to his family after the arrest? Are they still in danger? I don't have an answer to that question. You know who would? We need to talk to Elizabeth. We got to have her back on. We've been away from Mickey Stines for a little while. So, yeah, maybe we will have Elizabeth from Hillbilly Crimes back on. She's always game. By the way, speaking of Elizabeth, she talked about it a little bit on her channel, so I'm comfortable talking about it, but I'm not going to give any details here, guys. But she obtained a video that depicts one of these powerful people. He could be a member of this good old boys group. If he's not, he's good old boys group adjacent. It's a very compromising video. There's no way we can show it on YouTube. No way we can show it on YouTube. So I think that stuff is going to be coming out. I think it's going to start rolling in. In fact, if you are in Letcher County, you can drop me files. You can either use the link in the description below, or you can go over to my website, which is gavinfish.com. There's also a link there. And if you go to this little button right here to contact me, you can attach files here and you can remain anonymous. So if you have anything that you want me to see, not that I really want to see that sort of stuff, but anything that might assist in proving the case of what has been going on there in Letcher County, I invite you to reach out. Have at it. As a journalist, I protect my sources. You can remain anonymous, but if you want to be off the record and reach out to me, that's cool too. You have two ways to do it. This way, or you can drop me a file, which is in the link below. Okay. Let me see if there's anything else before we go into, let's see. Was the judge married? Any kids? We need to ask Elizabeth that, but I believe so. Yes. Real happy. Is Judge Mullins on tape? According to Sabrina Atkins, he is, but that tape has not come out. Meredith loves it when Elizabeth comes on. I love Elizabeth. She's rad. She's awesome. Okay. And Robin says, Gavin, shenanigans is what's going on here. Yeah, there are a lot of shenanigans. All right. I'm trying to think what I want to do next. Do we want to let's go to the document next, okay? And then we'll finish out with Anjanette Levy. So let's come with me over here to my Acrobat. This is a file that was, or this is a notice that was filed in Letcher Circuit Court on the 5th, almost a week ago. It is filed by the defendant. Notice pursuing to RCR 8.07, support for participation of defense expert in any state requested examination. So comes now the defendant, Sean Mickey Stines, by and through counsel, and hereby states as follows. A, notice pursuant to RCR, I don't know, that must be rules of criminal whatever, 8.07. Defendant intends to present expert evidence relating to a mental disease or defect or mental condition bearing on the issue of guilt and punishment. The defendant intends to present a defense of insanity as well as a defense of extreme emotional disturbance. The undersigned counsel does not raise the issue of competency to stand trial. Now, remember back last month sometime, the judge in a hearing was asking, do we want to evaluate for competency? And they said back then, no, we don't have an issue of competency. We have an issue of insanity and extreme emotional disturbance. Part B, support for attendance of expert. In the event that the Commonwealth elects to request an examination under this rule, then the defendant is entitled to the participation of its expert in the Commonwealth's examination. This is not only permissible, but mandatory upon request. And then Kentucky Revised Statute is probably what that means. 504.0805 provides that an examiner retained by the defendant shall be permitted to participate in any examination under this chapter. Chapter 504 governs examinations for both for incompetency to stand trial and insanity. And then they support with case law in McCracken County Fiscal Court v. Graves, 1994. The Kentucky Supreme Court addressed the mandatory nature of the statutory right in finding that costs associated with the defense expert attendance during the state examination were reasonable. And then, I'll finish it. And the McCracken Court held, in view of this statute, we believe that whether a defendant avails himself of this opportunity is strictly a matter of legal strategy to be decided by defendant and his counsel. It is not a question for the defense expert to decide, nor is it a question for the trial court. The statute not only permits the defense expert to be present, but mandates that the expert's presence be allowed. In this case, Dr. Johnson was present at the defendant's interview with Dr. Skelton as provided by the statute. Evidently, the legislature envisioned circumstances in which a defense expert's presence at an interview with the opposing expert is important enough to provide for in the law. We are unwilling to uphold the trial judge's ruling that the defendant's availing himself of what the law provides, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so wherefore the defendant respectfully submits the foregoing notice and support for attendance of expert pursuant to statute as well as the order of this honorable court. And it is signed by Jeremy Bartley, and it is he and his wife Carrie that are that are representing Mr. Stines. So getting back up here to the top, they're saying, hey, this is going to be an insanity defense. And we intend to present evidence that there was a mental disease or a mental defect, or at the very least, a mental condition bearing on the issue of guilt or punishment. So we will see what happens there. So see if you guys have any comments on that before we head over to Anjanette. Lori, that's pretty funny. That's a classic. Let's see if there's anything else out there. Patty says, Gavin, I love it when Elizabeth says, oh, fish, in her accent. I do too. That's pretty funny. Yeah, she's the best. She is the best. Okay. Let's head on over to the second video that I want to show you. This one's a bit longer. This one's about 11 minutes. We'll probably pause as we go along and watch this one. Again, this is Jeremy Bartley. He is doing an interview with Anjanette Levy on Lawn Crimes Crime Fix. Here we go.
Trial date yet, but our hope is to expedite. The state will get their opportunity to have our client examined, so we want to expedite those proceedings. I mean, you're looking at an 18-month or more backlog to get folks examined at the state facility. So normally we would wait much later, but we went ahead and filed that notice in the hopes to get that moving along.
Okay, so I don't want to just pause every 10 seconds here, but let's not let that get past us. If we're looking for a speedy trial here, probably not going to happen. He's like, we asked for this in the very beginning to expedite it because there's already an 18-month backlog. So yeah, this one's going to drag on for a while, folks.
You said specifically in your filing that you're not saying he's not competent. That's not the question here. And you had said that in an earlier hearing as well. This is specifically, you want him examined. You want your expert to be a part of it when the state does examine him. But you're saying basically, look, there was something going on with Mickey Stines when this happened. And that's why he stood there and just matter-of-factly pulled out his gun and shot Judge Mullins. So do you have any idea, given the fact that you're saying he's not incompetent, do you have any idea about what may have been going on? We know about the deposition in the lawsuit regarding the sex with the inmates in the courthouse.
We talked about
what else
that, right?
have you been able to glean, if anything, that you can share with us?
Well, so in terms of what the specific mechanism or diagnosis is at the time, I'm going to defer questions on that. But I will say this. There was no doubt to anyone that was around Mickey in the days.
I love this lawyer. He's like, yeah, I understand your question. I'm not going to answer it, but I will say this. I'm going to answer something completely different. That is so classic, and I don't mind it at all. But let me go back just a little bit.
At the time, I'm going to defer questions on that. But I will say this. There was no doubt to anyone that was around Mickey in the days following the deposition, prior to the deposition, and certainly after the deposition and the days leading up to what you saw in the video, that he had not slept, rarely, if any, had not slept in days, that his demeanor was completely off. People described him as paranoid and just not acting in accordance with his normal demeanor. Now, again, I don't want to get...
And again, Ned Pillersdorf said that exact thing. At the deposition, the guy was off. And I asked Ned, what does that mean? He was off. And he described it as typically a law enforcement officer is very confrontational. They're very comfortable in a confrontation. They will usually challenge the lawyers quite a bit. They will usually... they will kind of puff themselves up and peacock just a little bit. But he didn't do that. He was completely off. And so what Mr. Bartley is saying right here has been corroborated, at least in part, by my conversation with this man, Ned Pillersdorf.
Into specifics, the statute requires that there be a mental disease or illness or defect. I'm not going to get into that now. I'll wait until we hear more from the experts. But
they are saying that there is either a mental disease, a defect, a condition, or extreme emotional disturbance. That is what they're saying. That's what they're saying about their client. Hold on. Get back over here.
Just say this. There's zero doubt that the combination of his mental health, which was exacerbated by the pressure put on him because of this deposition, played a role in what we saw. And within that mental health defense, you really have two things. One, which I've said from the beginning for the preliminary hearing, we think sets the ceiling for the Commonwealth, is extreme emotional disturbance, right? Because that's a partial defense. And that goes to, at the moment he acted, did his emotions become so enraged, disturbed, or inflamed that he acted almost, basically out of control. I think it's evident that something happened within those chambers, and we'll get into more of that as the case progresses. But there was a moment at which his emotions, in a worst case for our client, it's extreme emotional disturbance, which would get us to manslaughter. But we believe that there's more, and we believe that that we will put on evidence that he was unable to conform his conduct based upon some mental health issues that were going on during that week.
So you touched on this, and I know we've talked about this.
So they're probably not going to claim that Mickey Stines was mentally ill permanently all the time. They're going to say stuff was happening that way. He was under extreme amount of pressure, huge amount of anxiety, fear for the safety of his wife and daughter, that he was legally insane. I think that's what they're going to argue
for as well, that he felt an imminent threat. You said something happened in those chambers. We've obtained video that shows Mickey Stines. We've kind of retraced his steps that whole day, walking away from the courthouse, walking to lunch, walking back in. Judge Mullins is on his bench. We see that. And then whatever happens. I mean, there's no audio, unfortunately. We don't know what was stated. Have you been able to learn what was stated? You said we'll get into that at trial, but do you know what Judge has Mickey Stines told you what Judge Mullins said that made him feel threatened?
Yeah, so I'm not going to be able to get into what my client has told me. I will tell you that when Mickey entered the judge's chambers, he had there was no doubt in his mind that his wife and his daughter had been threatened. And based upon what transpired in those chambers, he believed that threat was in motion.
And immediate.
And so,
I'm assuming, because you had said
yes,
we're an imminent threat.
Yeah, he felt that his wife and daughter had been taken. And,
he said it specifically right there. He thought that his wife and daughter had been taken. And that brings me back to the whole, he couldn't reach his daughter on his phone, but could reach his daughter on the judge's phone. If he believed that his daughter had been taken and that she couldn't answer the phone for him, but could answer for the judge, that could lead him to believe. I'm not saying that this is the case or that I even necessarily believe it, but the argument could be that was confirmation that Judge Mullins was involved in the kidnapping of his daughter. Is that what I'm hearing? I mean, let me ask you guys, am I making I guess, a rational characterization of what he may have been thinking there? Is that, or is that just going a little too far out on a limb? I'd love to hear your comments. Let's keep going with the video.
I think that, there's a lot out there that touches on what was actually going on behind the scenes. We look at the Benfield's deposition, the deputy that was convicted of having coercive sex with someone who was on probation and or on an ankle monitor at the time in the judge's chambers. We've got a video. I mean, if we take a step back here, we're talking about a live feed in the judge's office. That's unheard of. I can't speak for the rest of the country, but I can speak for Kentucky. I've been in a lot of judges' chambers. I've seen a lot of cameras, but I've never seen one that was a live feed, basically a security camera. My understanding, that camera went up after this prosecution of Benfield's in the civil suit. So we know in those chambers there was things going on that shouldn't have been going on. And
right.
We believe that there were folks that didn't want it being told in this deposition what was going on in there before they put cameras up. And I believe that there is a history that would show us that there is a reasonable belief that that he was in danger. His family was.
That makes me wonder. Okay, so here's my logic. Okay, this is where my mind goes. If people were concerned that Mickey would reveal things that were going on in the judge's chambers prior to the surveillance video going up, that means that Mickey Stines knew what was going on in the judge's chamber prior to that camera going up, which would mean that he was likely there when things happened in that judge's chambers before the camera went up. And it makes me wonder if Mickey Stines himself has evidence that he may have provided to his defense counsel of what was happening in the judge's chambers prior to the cameras going up. And will that be part of his defense? And if so, how many people are going to be brought down in Letcher County because of this case? Let's keep going.
Danger, depending on what he said in this deposition. Now, again, we think that was exacerbated by his mental health.
Oh, and by the way, we have gone, I'm so sorry to keep interrupting here, guys, but we know what he said in that deposition because we have the depositions. Mr. Millersdorf filed them as exhibits in his federal lawsuit, so we've been able to see that. Come to think of it, there's other stuff in there that I haven't shared that I probably should share. But anyway, we know what he talked about in his deposition, and I don't think that he even came anywhere close to outing anybody or having any knowledge of what was going on there. He did talk a little bit about, drug court personnel knowing what was going on with Benfield's before and being informed and all that sort of stuff. But he didn't say anything that I think would concern any parties that may be involved. However, on the Thursday after that deposition, nobody knew what he said in there. He may have had meetings with these people and they may have asked him, what did you say in that deposition? And he may have said, oh, nothing. This is what they asked me. I answered the questions. And they may have not believed him. Right? That's, man, here we go.
Or conversely, these threats impacted his mental health. But the bottom line is that Mickey felt that there was a threat to his wife and daughter and that it was imminent.
We know that Sabrina Atkins had told the Attorney General's office in Kentucky sometime before this that she was aware of a videotape of Judge Mullins
which we've
having
talked
sex with somebody.
I've read that, yes, and I heard it.
I mean, we have the audio. of her being interviewed by investigators.
Sure.
So have you, through your investigation of this case, been able to uncover any more information about that?
Yes. But I'm not going to comment on what that is. I'm not here. This is not the time and place. I've been very
by investigators.
I've read that, yes, and I've heard
that. I've heard it.
I mean, we have the audio of her being interviewed by investigators. Sure. So have you, through your investigation of this case, been able to uncover any more information about that?
Yes. But I'm not going to comment on what that is. I'm not.
Oh, so are we? Is this video going to come out? Maybe what Sabrina Atkins said was true, and maybe that video came out. Like I've never not believed her, but the whole adage in journalism, it's an old New York Times adage, and that is, in the newsroom, if your mother tells you that she loves you, your response should be, I'll check that out. Right? You can't automatically believe. You don't automatically disbelieve. You check it out, right? You verify. So I didn't disbelieve Ms. Atkins in her proffer to the AG's office, but I didn't necessarily believe her either because the evidence hadn't come out. But it does seem to me, by his answer and by his face, that either that video or something similar to it has come out. And I told you, I'm never going to share it with anyone because it is gross and I'm just not going to do it. But a member of the Good Old Boys Club, or at least closely adjacent to the Good Old Boys Club, there has been a video that is leaked of him. So yeah, I bet there are videos all over the place here.
Here, this is not the time and place. I've been very deliberate in not disparaging the judge. I'm not going to do that at this point. I will say though.
Oh wait a minute. That's an implication. Yes, I have seen stuff, but I'm not going to talk about it. I've been very careful never to disparage the judge. So he has seen evidence of the judge. Is that that's the implication, right? I'm inferring that a little, maybe a little too much, but that's what it seems like to me.
We're pretty confident that there were matters that could have been revealed in the deposition that people didn't want told.
Sure. And obviously, we don't want to disparage Judge Mullins, but this is a key question in the case, and what Mickey Stines knew and when and what have you. So
good on her for pushing.
You filed the notice. He's going to plead insanity. What happens next? I know he has to be evaluated. So what's next? You said there's a backlog of 18 months for him to be evaluated by the state. So where do we go from here?
Yeah. So I'll take a step back. So the notice says that we may rely on that defense. We've given notice that we very well may introduce insanity as a defense, and I think that we very well may. But what you have to understand is in putting on this particular defense, it's going to be vital to know what was going on around Mickey to understand why it was reasonable or unreasonable to believe that his family was threatened. And so, there's a lot more to this than, to say that we're going to rely on the insanity defense, yes. But, along with telling the story of his mental health, there's a lot of surrounding story that's inextricably intertwined with it that we'll have to tell and as part of his defense. But in terms of procedurally, we've given notice and we believe that if the state, they've not responded saying they want to have him examined in writing, It's my understanding they do. They will, I'm sure. But once they do that and the judge orders him to be evaluated, then at that point, it's up to the state facility and their experts as to when they conduct the testing that they see fit. And as I've said in my filing, I think the statute's pretty clear that our expert gets to participate.
Jeremy Bartley, as always, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming back on.
And Jeanette, it's always good talking with you. Thanks for having me on, and hopefully we'll talk more as this case goes along.
Yeah, hopefully. Thank you so much.
All right. So there we have it. Oh my goodness, guys. Let's bring up Judge Mullins again. This is our victim. And I honestly think that there was a little bit of slippage there when they were talking about not disparaging the judge. Okay. Wow, you guys have been busy over here. Let me find let's see, Jesse. This guy really loves wearing stripes. Yes, indeed he does. In fact, he's in a striped suit in this video, but I have to say, as a person, well, you guys know, I pretty much wear a uniform. I have like 10 shirts and I just go in a circle with them. But if I had to be in a suit every day, I would, well, my dad always was in a suit. And, so their closet, we used to laugh. My dad and mom's closet was bigger in square footage than any of our bedrooms. It was almost bigger in square footage than their bedroom, and chock full of dress clothes, of suits and slacks and sport coats and button-up shirts and everything. If I were a lawyer and I had to wear that costume every single day, I would have so many different suits. As it is right now, I have 4, and it's enough. It's enough. Todd says, Gavin, can a person go insane temporarily to commit a crime like Mickey did? Legally, I think the answer is yes. I think that, yes. Becca says, Gavin, I'm curious to see what defense they go for in regards to his mental state. And they did say they may, not that they will, they may go for an insanity defense. Becca continues, I find psychology fascinating. I have borderline personality disorder myself. Glad you're self-aware, Becca. Jessica says, I remember in Mickey's deposition for the civil case, he says he's been suffering from California encephalitis. Yeah, that was one of the claims, and that was one of the reasons that, I don't know, that I remember the California encephalitis thing. Was it about his memory? Is that what it was? I can't remember. Jess says, Gavin, are they saying he was off from his usual self or from the norm for law enforcement? Mr. Pillersdorf just said he was off. I took that as off from a normal law enforcement officer. That's how I took it, but I could easily be wrong on that. Let's see. Brosmid08 says, Gavin, in that deposition of Stines, he was asked questions about his family, etc. The one thing that stood out to me was that he said he has never known who his biological father is. I do remember that as well. Yeah. Knew who his mom is. Rosa says, Hillbilly Crime, Miss Elizabeth has released a few new videos, Gavin. Yeah, I've been watching. And I've been in contact with her too. She's rad. It was a rational thought. Okay, so my logic was working. Thank you very much. KG agrees. And then Real Happy says, so is attorney implying Judge Mullins was threatening his wife and daughter? I think that I think the implication was that there were parties that were threatening his wife and daughter, and it was possible, I think, that Judge Mullins was there. Beach Bum, Gavin, was the judge in a lifelong judicial appointment? No, this is an elected position. The district court in Pennsylvania, according to Mr. Pillersdorf, is very similar to the way it is here in Pennsylvania. Did I say that? I think I said Pennsylvania twice. Let me go back. The way that the district judges are elected in the Commonwealth of Kentucky is very similar to the way they're elected here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. It's a 10-year election. Actually, no, that's a Court of Common Pleas. I think district judges are a 6-year election or a 4-year election. But typically, once a judge is elected, if they want to keep the job, it's very difficult to get them out. Nobody will vote out a good judge. So like we had an election for a Common Pleas court a couple of years ago, and one of our friends and neighbors was running for that position, and he brought it to my attention then, if you elect a Common Pleas judge, it's a 10-year election, and then when they're reelected, it's just a question of should we keep them or not, and they always win that in the affirmative. So when you elect a judge, it's like a 30-year election. Technically, you could unelect them, but it never happens. Mooney says, Gavin, but maybe the daughter just didn't want to talk to her dad, so she wouldn't answer when he called. It doesn't change Stein's state of mind, but could explain the daughter's. Yeah, I agree with you, Mooney. Gavin, what if after the deposition he started asking questions? Oh, like Stines didn't know what was going on, and now he's like, come on, tell me, swear me in on this one, guys. Maybe. Todd thinks maybe there's some misdirection by the defense attorney. Jess says he has an awful poker face. I think you're right. Jessica, where's your poker face? Yes, indeed. Yeah, their butts are toast is the smirk in the technical body language terms. That's funny. Sounds like the victim is a villain. It's possible. And the whole thing where he's like, I don't want to disparage the judge. That disparaged the judge. That's pretty funny. Heather says I look great with longer hair. Thank you. I am working. I don't need these anymore. I'm working on being able to donate it. So I'm doing my best. Todd says 18-month backlog to be evaluated for insanity. Wow. Yeah, you're right. A couple more here before we go. Pamela Black, Gavin and crew watch you from Wayne County, West Virginia, and I'm sure looking into the goings on in Letcher County. Thank you for all you do. Yeah, you aren't very far from me. I'm in Western Pennsylvania, and we drove through Wayne County a few times on our way to visit our daughter in college. So yeah, you're not far from me at all. And Bonnie says, do you think it's wise of Stein's attorney to be speaking publicly? Yeah, I honestly don't think so. I mean, I'm grateful that he is speaking publicly, but no, I don't think that it's probably all that good for his client, unless, like I said at the beginning, is he trying to protect his client by getting all the stuff that people are afraid are going to come out, getting it out there so that there's no more danger anymore. Maybe that's what he's trying to do. And I mean, that's just speculation, but that's my guess. Okay. Hey guys, let's see. A couple things I want to bring to your attention before we go. Over on my channel, bring it up real quick. I typically only do live streams, but yesterday I uploaded a 10-hour video, which was the full case file for Jennifer. Every audio video interview of Jennifer Soto that we have been given, all of the unredacted ones. I used the latest ones I put into a single file, so you can check that there. It's always going to be there if you ever just want true crime noise on the background while you're sleeping or doing laundry or working on something. Go for it. That's something I invite you to see. And then the other thing, there were some questions over in the fish tank. The fish tank is where we hang out on Facebook. If you just search the fish tank, you'll find us. Or if you're on my website and you click on this little fishy icon, you'll find the fish tank. But they were asking about the whether or not I was on Court TV with Vinnie Politan. And the answer is yes, I was. And I believe that the video of that segment, I was on after Gisela and Joseph Scott Morgan. I think that, and I was on with Dr. I'm blanking on her name right now. Totally brain fuzzing here. But I think that comes out on YouTube tomorrow, about 7:15, something like that. So you can check that out over on Court TV's channel. With that, guys, let's see. I am going to plan on doing this with all the Stefan Stern stuff as well, so that we have that case file just sitting there for you guys. It's certainly, I'm not going to typically replace my live streams with video uploads like this, but every once in a while when we have the opportunity to do that, I will do that. It's something that I really admire Gisela Kay. She does that on her channel, and I think that I'm going to emulate her because she is a person that is deserving of being emulated. So that's what I'm going to do there. I will be back tomorrow night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. Oh, and then I will be on afterwards tomorrow night. I will be on again on Courtroom Confidential with Josh Ritter. So, check me out on my channel, then check me out over at Courtroom Confidential. That's going to be a busy day tomorrow because I've got a full day of sentencing hearings, and then I've got our live stream to do, and then we've got Courtroom Confidential. So that's a nice, busy, nice long day, and I'm going to enjoy every minute of it. And I hope that you will join me 7:30 p.m. Eastern. With that, I will bid you adieu. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for supporting me by coming and watching my videos, going to the website. Thank you, patrons. Thank you, everybody who members who takes care of me. I love you guys. Thanks so much. Have a good night. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below.